Oh, she's still trying to join in. All right, we are recording.
Okay.
Hi, how are you? Let me share my screen here. Let me close that. Tracy, you're gonna have to mute one of those though, because we got that favorite Zoom reverb. Share. All right, so I'll call the meeting to order just because anybody can do this at this point in time. It's this is Board of Education Curriculum Committee meeting on April 26th at 3 p.m. We are on Zoom. So we really only have two things here today, curriculum work update and then the American Rescue Plan funds for curriculum. So I'm going to stop my share so that I can see you all. And you might have to turn your there you go, perfect. So Eric and I don't expect a huge update. Hi Tracy, I don't expect a huge update, and I think this is part of the reason why the second agenda item is on there today, is to talk about moving forward. But Kristen and Erica, any updates as far as movement? Kristen, start with what you've been up to so people get a sense of what happens in this time of year.
Oh, you mean in general?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So in general, we're in testing season. So, you know, we have children that are, you know, coming in and out, and then there's the last links and the Foundations of Reading Test for Teachers, and then SBAC is underway, and we have added remote learners. So there's definitely there's professional development with EastCon. We've been plowing through that. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I have to, not a ton of curriculum work has been, I would probably need an 8th day of the week for that.
Mhm.
But, but there's definitely been a lot of other things happening.
So that was pretty intentional, and it wasn't to book the meeting at this time was not because of that, but this is part of our challenge, is that the other hats don't go away. The other tasks don't go away. And so someone who's pretty diligent over her vacation, I watched her sitting at our dining room table or our kitchen counter or in the living room, wherever she makes the office, just trying to do all of these things. SBAC this year is even larger because we have remote learners now added to the mix as a piece of this. So I just see the struggle, obviously because of who Kristen is with me, but I see the struggle to get the time to write, and it's her job, right? I mean, this is coaching is a portion of her job. Just trying to find the time to do that, whether it's with PD, with EastCon, has been really challenging. So I have some additional thoughts about that. I'll hold my thoughts beyond that, but Erica, any update from you?
You're muted.
Oh,
there you go. She just was mouthing no. You're okay. You're not muted. You was just quiet. So I guess Erica, tell us why, kind of what has been going on in your kind of teaching world about since last time we've met.
So it's really just been focusing on the classroom and the kids here and the distance coming and going of distance learners. We are in SBAC season, so that has taken a priority, and most of the curriculum writing has been on my own free time, which I've kind of been trying to finish up my internship. So my free time has kind of moved that direction.
Gotcha. So if you don't know, Erica's in an admin program. So that's part of our challenge here, right? So on top of how do we, and I met with Chris and Erica, we talked about timeline. We talked about some of the things that we may need to do to get this done, and just trying to, whether it's booking people, and they had some real clear thoughts about what works and what doesn't, and they've shared those things with you too. The second thing on the agenda today is really the kind of crux of why I wanted to meet today. We're in a position that typically this is not something we would, I would recommend. The money that's coming in with the probably the last round of Corona money, we'll call it, is the biggest pool. It's not in our coffers yet, but it's supposed to be in the $600,000 range. And from what I understand is it has to be spent by, I believe it's December of 2024. It is a lot of money, and 20% of those funds need to be used to address learning loss. Separate of meeting with Kristen and Erica, I've had several conversations, and MK, feel free to chime in on this. We've had several conversations around, okay, so each time a pool of money comes forward, we kind of have a list of, what needs to get done, what do we need? So, you have the carports, the tents, the cleaning stuff, the PPE, educational software, materials, Chromebooks. We've had all of these things, the lists. Those were the things to kind of survive. And now we're at the point of, we still need some things to survive and keep going next year, but we're in pretty good shape to do those things. So technology is in a really good shape. You're going to be hearing from me at the next board meeting about, we're going to be able to do our entire wireless infrastructure without spending a dime of town money. And it's big bucks. When I talked to my administrative team, we made kind of our list of what are the big things that where we would see the biggest impact on learning loss and the biggest impact on the district. And we have a list of probably, I would say, 6+ items. Everything from making what we had as the 0.4 special ed teacher full-time. We had an additional teacher at center. We had interventionist as an option for HMS math because they don't have an interventionist. After we made the entire list, we had a lengthy conversation about what's our number one. And our number one was the same for all of us. And it was to hire a definite curriculum director as an administrator for a specific period of time of the grant. That means that it's not going to be extended. We cannot afford to extend it beyond this grant because the cost. It could be something in the future if we ever move to one building that you could consider. You could consider making me 0.6 if you ever get to that point where things are rolling. I've always said there's ways to do that, but the purpose of the curriculum director and it would really be that, and I'm glad MK is here, is that the life of an administrator and the many hats that we all wear, we're not going to get it done paying $1,000 stipend. We're not going to get it done with just doing the sub work that we're doing, even if it's in during the day. And, Kristen's a prime example of this right now as a literacy coach of the other hats that, small districts, what we wear, people don't realize that, when you're the EL person, when you're the SBAC coordinator, when you're doing all, the readings, foundations of reading assessment, that's just things that are thrown on top of someone else's position. And so it's really hard for certain times of the year to spend time writing during the day or doing other things. So my recommendation to this group, and I think I've talked to Kristen and Eric about this as well. They would support this as well, is hiring a curriculum director that's in charge of only that. And they're in charge of, in that period of time, basically, you could do this. So it was 21, 22, 22, 23 as a 2-year position with it. I don't know too many administrators that would accept through. You could do a contract through December of 24 if you wanted to, however long the money would be there. You would match basically the salaries of our current administrators and same benefits. They would be added as an MOU, and I haven't even talked to them as a union yet, but the fact that all three administrators said, absolutely, please, that's our number one. We know the biggest impact that we can have on our students in learning is through curriculum. And without this money, I don't know that it's going to take forever to get there. I mean, you could double the Erica and Kristen's salaries, and I still don't know that we would get there. Just the number of hours that we're asking for. So, MK, you want to chime in on that of kind of, our admin conversation?
I mean, I think you meant, you covered everything. I do think though that, the concentrated time and mental energy that goes towards this is necessary. During the course of the day, you may think that you have all the time in the world, and your schedule is certainly not your own. I think it does it an injustice to our scope and sequence across the board in any of the content areas to do it piecemeal, because you really do need to get a real, head of steam rolling in order to go in a direction. So I know that there are definitely places where we need to have augmentation and bolstering, and I think it only can come from a unified thought process.
And so we've talked about the time to write, and I'm not just talking about ELA and math now. I'm talking about one person who's responsible for, within, and I said 2 years, I really meant 3. It's 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24. And it would be a 3-year process to, and it wouldn't use up all the money. You're probably, with someone with insurance, you're probably looking at $360,000, again, that you couldn't afford if you didn't have this grant. And I do think this can be tied to learning loss. I think we can sell it, and especially based upon the PD I saw today, and the importance of curriculum, that we get things written, that we get them published on the website. And I'm talking all of UA, all of our main content areas. I think that person would then be able to focus our Kristens of the world, in Erica's of the world, where they're trying to do something on a stipend, we're asking them to do a lot. They could do really targeted things. They could do, hey, do this unit based upon this information. And they could be responsible for those things. But this administrator would oversee all of those stipend areas if we maintain them, which I do think we should, because you get more buy-in. My first thought was no, but we have a stipend for social studies, science, ELA, and math, and you will maintain buy-in, I think, if we were able to keep those teaching positions, because then you're working with the administrators. It would not release the responsibility from administrators of being involved in the process, but they're not the ones booking the meetings. They're not the ones that, they're not at every meeting because they're doing something else. It's okay. I would not change the observation responsibilities at all. This person wouldn't be responsible for observations, except maybe a couple people. It'd be a very, very minor portion of their job. Their job would be to write, revise, publish, get approved. Like, that's their job. And when you set a time limit to say, look, at year 1, this is what we need to see in year 1, and by year 3, we want to see everything published. That's our goal. And they're not the only ones writing, but I think it's something that we need to do. That's my thought.
I think you could really justify it in that for learning loss, part of it is having an enrichment component and helping out the kids who need extra work component. So by better defining the curriculum, you're really focusing on the, especially the learning loss portion of it for this grant. So I think that would justify using it that way.
My first thought was, I was wondering if you've considered creating a position that maybe could be shared with Ashford, if they're in a similar position, because we're both very small school districts. And I was thinking the 3 towns, but Mansfield's quite a bit larger, but having coordinated curriculum between the sending schools going to EO would be, I think, advantageous also. And it seems like a full position for our small school. I mean, I agree you need somebody who's not doing stipends. I've done curriculum work, and, you know, as you're trying to teach, and it's crazy. But I was just, that was the first thing that came into my mind, was a possibility of coordinating it with Ashford, because they're at a kind of a similar size that we are, and they might be interested.
I do think, I mean, we've thought about other things with Ashford because we are very similar, but I think that the responsibilities that this person would have and the dedication they'd need to have to our own district may not be, there may not be enough person for sharing. I think we really do need a dedicated person here.
Would they be also involved in teaching the like instructional piece? Because it sounded like it was, you know, writing curriculum, which could be for more than one district. That was why I was thinking it would be something that might work. But
Well, they might, and I think at admin, Phil, and interrupt me if I'm misspeaking, but I also think that a big piece of it would also include some instructional coaching along the content areas, you know, for STEM, for math, having somebody do, you know, anchor lessons or sample lessons, perhaps to kick off a unit, or to, because instructional strategies have sort of, they've been whittled away with this pandemic. And I think reintroducing some of the best practices is a good idea. We also have to take a look at how we're assessing. So I think that it's not just curriculum and that document, but it's everything else that goes around it.
so then it is also coaching.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I would put it in there. I mean, look, you're going to be providing some PD. I think the thing that maybe I'd add to what MK said was, you know, those folks that the teaching staff that have stipends, those could be the people that are doing model lessons as well.
Mhm.
But there needs to be someone that is the core of the writing and organizing and staying on top of it, and just adding that to anybody's day-to-day right now is madness, number one. And second part is when you talk about Ashford, I don't disagree with that. We should all have aligned curriculum to EO Smith. Doing that is a philosophical nightmare. It is, I mean, I don't know how else to say that. I mean, just the programs that we have that someone else might not have, or they have that we don't. I mean, it's the, you know, when we started talking about, you know, regionalization, and it was going to cost Wellington $1 million more per year. There's a reason why, you know, I mean, it's, I like the idea of those, you know, this could be someone that could definitely coordinate with a Mansfield and an Ashford, and honestly a Columbia as well, because they're sending a lot of students as well. But they can take those things and without having full alignment, but they could have some shared vision of what students should be going to EO Smith with, or whatever school.
I also think it's very important that the person is connected to Kristen and Erica and the classroom teachers, because there's so much that's happening that just isn't down on paper. So how do we capture that, you know, give that to that person so they can put it on paper? Because so much of it is in everybody's heads, you know, in books in the classroom and lessons, and so how to keep the teachers involved as well as Erica and Kristen, so that they can feed, you know, curriculum to this person that's already been developed, but just isn't on paper yet.
Well, and the PD portion of that is so important too. I mean, we listen, we meet as an administrative team. We, you know, we talk to Kristen and Erica about what PD is needed. We've known that, but for someone to know exactly where we are, and hey, the next units are rolling out, this group needs to do this, so they're ready. I think that, that's an important piece of where we're trying to get to. And I don't know how an MK or a Rich, how they do that in addition to their current jobs. It's not, they don't work in the summer times already. So it's not like they have all this extra time in the summer to build and gather and prepare. And it's surely, I mean, we've gotten a lot out of the two ladies sitting in the room that have, gone well above and beyond their stipends. We could definitely create this. And I already have this in my brain, to be honest with you. We've since David Harding was superintendent, we've always talked about how do we get our folks that have stipends accountable for what they're doing. And we've always talked about, trying to build in monthly meetings. So at least they have an extra hour per month that is equivalent to around their stipend. And then, some of the times maybe it's writing, but we've never gotten to that point because the curriculum is such the stall that you can't even have the conversation. And it's the writing portion of it. So again, I'm cautious about how this is pitched because Erica's original position, when she was hired in this district as an interventionist, there were several people that said, well, you only need this for a year or two. I never said that. I disagree with that wholeheartedly from the get-go. This is a position, though, you can only afford for 3 years.
So that was my next question on that. What happens afterwards? How long will that curriculum be appropriate, before it needs major it seems like the whole time I was teaching, we were always writing curriculum.
Right.
You'd get it done, and then then the next generation science standards came along, and
Right.
we do it all over again. So
But I think if you have at least the base, which is you need the core.
I agree, absolutely.
And once you have that, then I do think I can ask a Rich and a Mary Kay to say, you're in charge of those stipends now. Your job is to keep that going. Kristen still has that stipend. It's part of her job. It's part of her regular job. That we can keep the revision process going. It's kind of like, when you don't have anything to work with yet, we have, thoughts and heads, and it's on this piece of paper and it's in this file, but only 3 people have it and we need 7 to have it. That it makes it so much harder. If we can get it to a place where then we can set up, and we talked about this on one of our original meetings, is to have a revision process. Like when this person leaves, we need to say, there is a revision process, and this is what going forward, you will be reviewing ELA in 24-25, because that was the first curriculum that was done. In 25-26, you're reviewing your math or whatever it is, that there's some sort of calendar for curriculum revision. And I say that revision meaning approval process, not just revision, because I agree you're always adding to, but at least to put us in a position to be able to do that. Because right now I'm not sure that we're in that position.
I think this is a great idea, first of all. But I also think that there will, I don't think this is going to be that hard of a sell, because I think there's a lot of conversation at meetings and from public that are asking for, what does our curriculum look like? They want to know how we're going, more specifically how things are being met than especially during budget season. And if you have grant money to pay for it, then there's less argument, because they don't have to fund it.
Right.
And then I think, like you're saying, if once people see what's happening and can get an understanding, just like I wasn't in on the beginning of Erica's position coming in, but I was in on some of the conversations, or present in the meetings when people were saying, why do we have to keep going with this position? But I think after, I don't know, you've been here 8 years, I can't even remember. It's been a long time though. And you've been here a very long time, and we've seen the benefits of having a math interventionist as well as the reading interventionist. So I think Not that we need to necessarily say we're going to keep a person longer, but they'll see the benefits once it starts happening, because we don't want to burn everybody out, and there isn't enough jobs. I mean, a few years ago, the current administrators at the time came in and showed us what they do in their week, in their day. That wasn't even including Erica and Kristen. But there was no space in there for anything extra. So I think this is a really good way to spend the funds.
Yeah, and this is what was kind of one of my arguments to the administrative team was, I think you get a lot when you hire an interventionist. You get a lot. You get more student support, right? But if that person has a 7-hour day and they can, with planning time and lunch, they're working 6 hours a day, how many kids are they working with? And I'm not devaluing that position at all. All I'm saying is if we could have a curriculum director who impacts all kids and all staff versus a limited number of kids, even if you hired another classroom teacher to keep class size small, you are still only impacting a certain number of students, and the same problems, same challenges still exist. And it's without this money, this is not something that I would pitch. We would have to figure out a way to do it. And again, it's drastic. There's, things that we could do that are really drastic, but this is opportunities there, and we wouldn't even be spending all the money. But I haven't seen the grant application yet. All I know is it's still around 600,000, and 20% has to be spent on learning loss, which I easily think I could sell. But you're talking about $360,000 ish over 3 years, and you'd still have 240,000 to over those 3 years for what other needs come up.
So when you talked about freeing up the interventionists to work with the children who are experiencing learning loss, that's huge also for the justification. So by hiring this curriculum person to take that burden off of those interventionists, then that, like you just said, creates time for the children with the learning loss. So I think that is the second piece of your justification.
Right. And I mean, I'm going to talk about Kristen specifically in this situation, because we have an expert in district in reading, but she's trying to write curriculum, and she's trying to do SBAC, and she's trying to do all these things. And the content knowledge that she has is staying in her brain when she's supposed to be out coaching, which is what she was hired for. And, supporting teachers so they can support students. And we're making more systemic change as opposed to fix the problem. We see a problem, we fix it. This is more proactive. It's how I see this. This is way more proactive than me hiring an interventionist, because the kids are going to keep coming in with problems, with challenges, with deficits, however you want to say it. We're trying to impact learning on the front side, as opposed to waiting for the issue to occur. And then now let's try and apply, the Band-Aid and hope it sticks.
It sounds like, from what Kristen was saying in the past, and I think Erica too, some of the things that you're trying to put in the curriculum are things that we need sooner rather than later, because if you start in kindergarten, you might help to alleviate some of those deficits when they get a little bit older, because you have this new knowledge of ways of teaching in a different way, but it isn't out there to the teachers yet.
Right. That's exactly it.
That's right. And Kristen, I mean, speak to what's changed in reading in the last year that's really come to the forefront for science. I mean, speak to that.
You're saying you want me to speak to that right
Yeah,
now?
I mean, just how yeah, I mean, just fast, like how drastic is it of what we know now than what we knew a year ago?
I mean, I would say just over the past not several years, over the past few years, there's just a body of knowledge that was just not as accessible in past years. And districts and we're not the only district, but there's districts all over that are adopting more of a science-based approach. And we have a workshop approach. So we need to marry the science and the workshop, which is that's a lot of, that's a big task.
What are your concerns?
So Phil, to get approval for use of this grant in this way it's on the board level.
Well,
In the state level?
I'm going to smile because I'm going to tell you that I've written all the grants so far, and this it varies district to district. You pay me as your CEO, right? That's what I am. I've made decisions of how to spend grant dollars based upon need, and whether it was ESSER 1 or it was the first funds that came through, whatever it's been, I've submitted applications. This is a biggie though, that I don't want. I want to make the board aware of it, but I think I also want to make sure that you are supporting this as the curriculum committee, because when I pitched this, I didn't want it to be first time at the board level. And I probably don't need your approval, but I mean, I do work for you. So I think we need to be on the same page as that. I don't want to nickel and dime every dollar of the $600,000. And I'm not gonna, I have to write the grant with SMART goals, I think, just like the ESSER grant I just wrote. But like I said, there's things that you don't know yet because I haven't had a chance to show you, but like our wireless infrastructure is aged. It's been aged. We've had things drop, and Zoom is worked out okay for us, but we still continue to have issues. Well, when your access points are old and money comes forward and we have E-rate funds and we blend our E-rate funds from the federal dollars with the grant money, and you can replace your wireless infrastructure for no cost to taxpayers, you do it. And so I've been making those decisions because I think that's what you pay me for. So, but I think that you have to support it, and you also, when you start to answer questions, and you've had the thought of, what Laura just said, why don't we blend this with Ashford? Would that work? I think there's definite pros and cons to that. I think the more you can think of those questions, the easier it is to sell this idea and share it and make it clear that, look, I need to make it clear, because I've relied on transparency since day one I've been in here, specifically around dollars. This is a 3-year position. I don't think financially this town can afford an additional administrator beyond what they have now. And what they have now is fully required. There's no way you could run this district with anything less than what you have now. If you go to one building, if you have a new building, if your policies are intact and your curriculum is intact, I'm outdating myself. I really am in saying, look, you have things rolling. You could do less, have less superintendent time. You could reduce.
This is not another pandemic.
Right. Yeah. But if you're in one school, it's easier to manage those things. And that's the point, is that, Mary Kay's got to do something for her schedule for the pandemic. Rich has got to do another. I'm managing both. You're having conversations with both. All of those things play out in this. So Tracy, long-winded to answer your question is, some boards have voted on what they want in their grant application, and some have not. I have decided that I don't think that you need to vote on those things, as long as I'm transparent with you and sharing what we've done, which I've done at every budget meeting. Everything I've shared with you, I've said, look, we're going to offset this with this money, or, we're buying new iPads. The last grant, you're going to hear this at the next board meeting, is the grant that's going in. We now need to replace our 1-to-1 iPads for K and 1. Grant money's going to pay for it. Those are things that you wouldn't be able to do without those, and I can back it up of why without that grant funding. This is another example of this, and it might honestly be the most powerful thing that you could do.
Yeah, I'm in support, and I think it would, we could say that we support it and wouldn't have to be voted on, although I think it would get support of the whole board.
I think it would too, especially if you make clear the points that you just made about it being 3 years, and it would get everything in place so that then the revision process would be manageable. You know, as long as, because I think that some folks may say, oh, you're kind of sneaking this position in, it's going to be free
That's
for
what I'm
3
trying to avoid.
years, but then we're going to have to pay the big bucks or they're going to try to, you know, continue it. But your reasoning on why 3 years works, and you know, to get you to that point that you wouldn't need that person anymore. You would just be able to revise and update and approve. Like, what is it we have to do? That's right, the approve piece on a cycle.
And we have a calendar already established that we had set up with Erica and Kristen about a timeline. And so I'm sure you're basing that 3 years somewhat on that timeline. Although now that person would be dedicated to that. So there'd be even, you know, more chance for that to happen because the time would be dedicated, and you're not you're bringing a person in who doesn't, you became part of your job is writing curriculum, but it became a bigger part more recently with that, you know, in past year or so with our push for a new updated curriculum. Whereas when you were hired, that, you know, wasn't at the top, I guess.
Little did they know.
You know, so this person coming in with those few years, that's where they're going to focus. It's not going to have to go to the back, I guess. You know, I mean, not that you're putting it to the back, but
Right. Well, a little, because we have to.
right. But that's, I mean, that's
Right.
out of necessity, not because you.
Right.
Right. And I think that's my point of asking Kristen to share what she's been doing, because literacy coach and SBAC coordinator don't go together. Literacy coach and foundations of reading test. It's just that we wear so many hats, and it's just the way it is in small town USA. I'd love for them to be able to do their jobs, whatever their job is. The other pro about this job, and this is where, you know, I've always believed that we need to make it manageable for our administrators for the number of days they work. 200 days was awesome for me. I love that. Having my summers was great. But I still did work during the summertime and get things done. But it was, you know, hey, it's a nice day, I'm not going to work today. This person, you could add more days to it as needed, because let's face it, MK is managing a building. Rich is managing a building. When the staff and kids aren't there, there's still things for them to do, but they're prepping for next year, and they have days built into the contract to do that. Marcia is managing summer school, so she has a little bit more, I think just a small number of days more. This person, you could make 220 days if you wanted, and you know, they still get 3 weeks off in the summertime, but you still get more. Yes, it increases their salary, but again, that's, you know, we could pitch that to buy more days, as opposed to saying it's, you know, kind of the 200 days like our principals. So just another thought as well.
Another thought, my family calls me worst case scenario. So I wouldn't want to see someone come in with preconceived notions about what the curricula should look like. Do you know what I mean? I really would love someone who will work closely. You have so many wonderful things in place, and I want that person to be able to capture that and put it down on paper. And maybe even during the summers, if there are any interested teachers that for extra money would like to work with that person and share, you know, maybe a person from each grade level, or to share all the best practices that are already going on and just get those on page. And Kristen and Erica, if they're game. But you know, just seeing work come home, I'm seeing wonderful things going on. I'm so impressed with the first grade curriculum and how like every single sound is being addressed, you know, and I just see these wonderful things, and I just really would just love to see you find a way to be able to get them down on paper as a curriculum and not lose anything in the,
That's gonna come through me. And
yeah,
I'm not a buy a program and run a program as is person, and I'm
right.
not a, top down, this is the way we're gonna do it. Take it or leave it. I don't believe it works, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. And my job would be to work with this person to drive and say, look at, Erica and Kristen have spent, and others, to be honest with
Mhm.
you. I mean, there's been work in other content areas too. They've spent a lot of time,
Mhm.
and we're going to take what they've done and continue it. We're not starting from zero.
Mhm.
And move forward. I mean, I think that, but that's, I'm not, I won't let that happen.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions that you think that the board will have? Anything that you want me to really highlight? I'm gonna put this on the next agenda. When I share, I'm gonna put this is gonna be in the budget section, so it's not gonna be under new business around a vote or anything. It's just going to be a share. And it'll also be, obviously, when we go through the committee meeting review, it'll be in that as well. So a chance for you three to speak around, your thoughts around this, what I'm planning to do.
I think, Phil, too, to share what Kristen and Erica shared about their job descriptions and how there just isn't any extra time to do curriculum. And I think that's crucial for the rest of the board to understand.
Yeah, their stipends are about 30 hours a year. If we paid their contractual hourly rate, it's about 30 hours a year. They're probably at that after a month and a half.
Hmm.
Anything else? Any other questions? Any other things you want me to highlight? I guess, I'm really looking for the three of you to speak up to, just to kind of talk about what we talked about today. And, I think you understand the timeline. You've been in this conversation more than the remainder of the rest of the board around how challenging this is to get this work done in the time frame and the urgency that we want to get it done. I think this is a fantastic opportunity, and I think we'd be missing the boat big time if we don't take advantage of it.
I agree.
Mary Kay, what I miss?
You hit it all. I think you have the philosophy down and it's perfect.
Erica, Kristen, anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anything else from any of the board members? So my direction. Sorry, what we can say.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a great idea. I'm glad that you guys are thinking, and not that we want to take anything away from Erica and Kristen, but it seems like you need a little bit of your backpack empty.
Yeah, we need to clean their backpacks. Is what we need to do to allow them to do their jobs. Either whether if it's a teaching job, let's let that person teach. If it's a curriculum director job, let's let that person lead the curriculum. If it's literacy coach, let that person coach. And that's the challenge of a small town USA. And if we can do that for a focused period of time, I feel confident that I can then take that hat from that person and put it back on Mary Kay's head, and not on Kristen or Erica's head. And then, and it's back in my head, to be honest with you, with the revision process. I think that's what we're looking to do, and that's why we're proposing this. Good. All right, Laura, make sure you wear your life jacket.
I'm a good swimmer. I was a lifeguard.
All right. So it's, unless anybody has anything else, I will adjourn the meeting unless you have anything else.
Thank you, Kristen and Erica.
Thank you.
Yeah.
3:51.
And thanks for coming, Mary Kay.
No, this is my wheelhouse.